I saved this seat for you, the girl said, her small hand gripping the edge of the cafe table as her wheelchair shifted softly against the wooden floor. The words were quiet, but they landed with strange certainty. Ethan slowed mid-step, one hand still wrapped around his phone where unread messages glowed across the screen. He had chosen this cafe for one reason only. It was anonymous. No glass walls, no conference tables, no one asking for decisions. Just noise, steam, and the comfort of being unseen. He looked around to make sure she meant someone else. The cafe was crowded with lunchtime faces, couples leaning close, students bent over laptops, strangers sharing space without sharing lives. The girl met his eyes without hesitation. You, she said gently. You always sit alone. Ethan almost smiled out of habit, the polite expression he wore in meetings, but it didn't quite form. He had no memory of her. Yet the way she spoke made it sound as if she had been waiting for him. The chair opposite her was empty, pushed back just enough to invite him in. For reasons he couldn't explain, he slid his phone into his pocket and Saturday. Up close, she looked smaller than he first thought. Maybe 9, maybe 10. Her hair was tied in uneven braids, some strands always escaping. A thin blanket covered her legs, patterned with tiny yellow stars. Her hands rested calmly on the armrests, as if she and the chair were one quiet unit. My name is Lily, she said. You get the window light at this hour. It makes the coffee look warmer. Ethan followed her gaze. Sunlight filtered through rain-streaked glass and touched the steam curling from the cups on nearby tables. He hadn't noticed. He rarely noticed things like that anymore. I'm Ethan, he replied, surprised by how long it had been since he had introduced himself without adding a title. She nodded as if she had expected no more than that. Then she pulled a folded napkin from her pocket and carefully placed it between them. On it was a crooked drawing, 2 stick figures sitting at a table, one with wheels instead of legs. Above them, in uneven letters, were the words, You are here. My mom says people who eat alone for a long time forget how to be seen, Lily said. So I save seats. Something shifted inside Ethan's chest. Not sharply, not painfully, just enough to remind him it existed. He glanced toward the counter. A woman stood there wiping her hands on a towel, watching them with cautious eyes. Tired eyes. The kind that had learned to stay alert even while standing still. That's my mom, Lily added. She worries that I talk to strangers. But you're not a stranger anymore. You sat down. The waitress arrived with Ethan's usual order without asking. Black coffee, no sugar. He thanked her, then hesitated. What would you like? Lily looked at him as if the answer had already been decided. Hot chocolate. With extra foam. When the drinks arrived, she waited until the server walked away before leaning closer. People who sit alone always think they chose it. But sometimes the choice just happens so many times it feels like a rule. Ethan stirred his coffee slowly. The sound of the spoon against porcelain felt louder than it should have. And you? He asked. Do you choose to sit alone? She shook her head. No. That's why I save seats. They talked in pieces at first. Small facts. Lily came here every afternoon after therapy. The cafe was close, warm, and had a bathroom wide enough for her chair. She liked watching people guess who she was waiting for. Ethan told her he worked in an office with too much glass. He did not mention numbers, stocks, or the word CEO. Minutes passed without him checking his phone. Then more minutes. The cafe noise shifted with the crowd, yet their small table felt oddly still, like a pocket of quiet inside the movement. Lily asked questions that skipped around in gentle jumps. Did he like rain? Did his parents still tell him good night? Did he ever wish he could be someone else for one whole day? Ethan answered honestly before he realized that was what he was doing. When it was time for her to leave, Lily's mother rolled the wheelchair closer. Say thank you, she said softly. Thank you for seeing me, Lily replied instead. Ethan stood as they left, uncertain why his hands felt empty. He watched them go until the door closed and the bell rang once. The chair across from him stayed empty. And for the first time in years, he didn't rush to fill the space. That night, in a penthouse filled with silence and city light, he found himself thinking of the cafe window, the foam on hot chocolate, and a napkin drawing folded carefully in his pocket. The next day, he returned. He told himself it was convenience, nothing more. But when he entered, Lily was already there, the chair angled slightly toward the door as if she had measured the exact moment the bell would ring. You're early, she said. So are you, he replied. She grinned. I like to be ready when people come back. They talked longer this time. About the shapes of clouds, about how therapy felt like climbing a mountain made of tiny steps, about how her mother worked 2 jobs but still managed to read every night even when her voice was tired. Ethan listened more than he spoke. He found that listening felt like rest. Before leaving, Lily leaned forward and whispered, "People think waiting is empty. But it's not. It's full of maybe." On the 3rd day, and the 4th, and the 5th, the routine quietly formed. Same seat. Same window. Different words. Each day added a small invisible thread between them. Shared jokes, unfinished stories, questions saved for later. One afternoon, as rain blurred the world beyond the glass, Lily said, "You know, when you first sat down, you look like someone who forgot where he started." Ethan held his coffee with both hands. "And now? Now you look like someone who's walking back." He didn't fully understand what she meant. But for the first time in a long while, the path ahead did not feel like a straight line of meetings and deadlines. It felt like something with turns. Something with light through windows. Something waiting. On the 6th day, Lily wasn't there when Ethan arrived. The chair beside the window sat empty, perfectly aligned with the table, the blanket folded neatly over the back like a promise paused mid-sentence. The cafe felt louder without her voice softening its edges. He ordered their drinks out of habit, black coffee and hot chocolate with extra foam, then realized what he had done only when the server raised an eyebrow. He nodded anyway. The foam settled slowly, a small white cloud he found himself watching too closely. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Ethan told himself waiting was nothing. He had waited for board votes, for markets to open, for numbers to change. But this was different. This waiting had a shape. It had a face. Then the bell rang. Lily's mother entered first, guiding the wheelchair through the doorway. Lily looked paler than usual, but her eyes still carried that steady light. When she saw him, her smile arrived before the chair did. "I told you I'd be back," she said. "I believed you," Ethan replied, surprised by how easily the words came. Her mother apologized for being late. The bus had been slow. The weather made Lily tired faster these days, she explained gently. Ethan listened without asking questions that felt too heavy. Some things were meant to be learned in quiet layers. Lily took her usual place. "Did you keep my seat?" she asked. "I wouldn't dare touch it," he said. She laughed, a light sound that somehow felt older than her years. Then she pointed to his cup. "You ordered wrong," she teased. He slid the hot chocolate toward her. "Only for a moment," he said. That day, she told him about her therapy goals, standing for 10 seconds without holding anything, moving 1 foot forward by herself, learning how to fall safely so she wouldn't be afraid of trying. She described each goal the way other children talked about birthdays or vacations. "What happens when you reach them all?" Ethan asked. She tilted her head. "Then I make new ones." A week later, Lily brought a notebook. Inside were sketches of the cafe from different angles. The door, the window, their table, and people. Dozens of stick figures with tiny differences, small details only she seemed to notice. "These are the people who sit alone," she explained. "I draw them until they stop looking lonely." Ethan turned page after page, feeling something quiet unfold inside him. "And me." She flipped to the last page. A figure with broad shoulders sat across from the girl in the wheelchair. Above them, the same words appeared again. "You are here." But this time, there was a third chair sketched beside them, empty, waiting. "For who?" he asked softly. "For your son," she said without hesitation. The word landed gently but stayed. Ethan hadn't spoken of his child. Not once. Yet Lily's certainty made it feel like a truth that had always been visible. He didn't correct her. Some understandings didn't need confirmation. As the days passed, something subtle began to change in him. He no longer arrived with his phone in his hand. He no longer watched the door as an exit. He noticed the weather, the steam, the way Lily's mother stirred sugar into her tea with slow, careful circles, the way Lily's blanket shifted each time she moved, stars gliding across fabric like tiny constellations. One afternoon, Lily said, "I used to think my chair meant I was behind everyone else. And now I think I just get to see different things first." He carried that thought with him through glass hallways and quiet elevators. It changed the shape of his days. Weeks turned into something softer than time, something measured in shared cups and unfinished sentences. Ethan began bringing small things, a new pen for her notebook, a tiny snow globe for her windowsill, stories about the city she couldn't easily explore yet. In return, she gave him questions that stayed with him long after he left. "Do you think people find each other on purpose?" she asked once. "Or do they bump into each other because they're both ready?" "I don't know," he admitted. She smiled. "Maybe both." One morning, Lily stood when he arrived. Not fully. Not easily. But enough that the effort showed in the quiet tremor of her arms. Her mother hovered nearby, eyes wide but hopeful. Lily held the edge of the table. The stars on her blanket slipped downward as she lifted herself inch by inch. Ethan didn't move. He didn't rush forward. He remembered what she had told him, about falling safely, about not being afraid of trying. 10 seconds, she whispered. They counted together under their breath. When she sank back into the chair, breathless and glowing, the cafe seemed to hold its breath with them. "I stood while you were watching," she said proudly. "You did more than that," he replied. That evening, Ethan returned home and opened a door he hadn't used in years. The room inside held quiet shadows and dust-softened light. A child's room. He stood there for a long time without entering, as if waiting for permission from a memory. The next day, Lily asked, "What did you do after you left?" "I found a room I forgot," he said. She nodded. Forgotten things don't disappear. They just wait differently. Soon, they began to talk about after. Not in loud plans. In gentle outlines. Lily dreamed of standing in front of the cafe window without holding anything, just once, while the sun touched her face at the same angle as always. Ethan spoke of showing his son the places where quiet mattered. Their dreams didn't clash. They wove. One afternoon, as autumn leaned into the city, Lily looked at the empty third chair in her notebook drawing and said, "It feels closer now." Ethan followed her gaze to the space beside them. What does? The moment when this seat isn't waiting anymore. He felt the meaning settle between them, not as an answer but as a direction. That night, Ethan made a call he had delayed for far too long. His voice didn't sound the way it used to when he spoke only to negotiate. It sounded uncertain. Honest. The next day at the cafe, Lily noticed the change before he said anything. "Your shoulders look lighter," she observed. "I think they are," he replied. She smiled as if that had been one of her goals all along. As winter approached, the cafe window fogged more often, and Lily's hot chocolate grew sweeter. The world outside slowed. Inside, their small table felt steady, like an anchor in moving water. One evening, as closing time neared and the lights dimmed softly, Lily leaned forward and said, "You know, people think saving a seat is about waiting for someone to arrive." "And it's not." Ethan asked. "It's about telling them there's already a place for them when they do." The bell rang as they left together into the cold air. The empty seat by the window remained behind, not abandoned, not forgotten, just waiting for the next moment to become real.